Hi everyone. I'm going to surprise you today with a question, with a set of questions that will get you thinking. Will get you think particularly in the direction that your brain should be going instead of being distracted by what is going on that is trying to put another layer of hypnosis, of trance over your eyes. I've been debating whether I should address the issue or not because it's so controversial and people don't respond well to controversial, especially after so many decades, if not centuries of brainwashing. So coming out and calling it as it is, it really goes against all my interests. So I have nothing to gain from disclosing this. If I'm doing it, and I'm doing it at my peril, and I'm well aware of that, is because it's part of my duty as a moral citizen, as a teacher, as a person who works with people to help them improve their life, their mental health, to grow spiritually, and to really reach their potential. I would do that. Just I would do it for my daughter, even if she didn't like to hear what I had to say many times, or even if that will put me into the ogre category. I had to tell her truths that were not palatable, even if that made me unpopular for that moment. In the same way, I see this as my duty to voice it, to tell it as I know it is, as I see it, and then let the public opinion and let the people do what they may with it. But at least those of us who came with a gift of the seeing from higher dimensions, from higher places, and understanding patterns and so more than that, we fail our mission for being here if we wouldn't deliver what we are seeing, if we wouldn't deliver our message. So that is the preamble of what I'm going to say. And buckle up. I am going to surprise you, and I'm going to blow your mind with a few questions that I really want you to take the time to seriously consider, and then do a retro analysis on your life to see and look around you, look at the people around you, look at your colleagues, look at your family, look at how many friends you have left, look at the society, the way it goes, and then listen again at this video, and then you tell me. But one thing I don't want you to do, I don't want you to just scroll and mindlessly consume this, but being occupied and let your mind wander somewhere else, because you won't get anything from it, and it's a waste of time on both sides. I don't want you to sit with it and do nothing about it either. At least write a comment, write a few lines, and let me know what conclusion you have come to. We need to engage into this dialogue, and we really need to come together. I will come with more details about the solution to that, but at least engaging and commenting, and just come to your, like, if you had a realization and from what I'm gonna say, just come with your own examples. That will help others. So that will incentivize others to come out of their shell and to actually, or to say, oh my God, I'm not alone, so I'm not going crazy. So things are like that actually happening. Yeah. So stay tuned. Are we just part of a cosmic documentary? Our every move observed by forces we don't even know exist? What if the real battle isn't just here on Earth, but spans across dimensions, pitting natural life against an insidious artificial order? You're about to step into a world where reality isn't what you think. It's far deeper, far stranger, and far more urgent than you realize. Imagine for a moment that your entire life is just part of a Netflix documentary, a fleeting scene in the grand process of birth, growth, and inevitable decay. What if, just as you observe the smaller details of life under a microscope, higher beings are watching us, our every move, every choice, every transformation? Now, take it one step further. What if this whole experiment isn't just random? What if our society is being carefully engineered, step by step, to evolve into something we no longer recognize? This isn't science fiction. It's happening right now in ways you can't even imagine. In the Conversation with Self method, we have defined health as the ability of an organism to adapt, to coexist with, and influence its environment to fulfill its purpose. From the micro to macro levels of existence, we are all cells in a body. If we perform our functions, the body is healthy, thrives, and can expand to its next evolutionary level. If we don't, the body gets ill, the cells start fighting amongst themselves for the little resources left. The original body eventually dies, and whatever is left, it will mutate and become a completely different entity. On the adagio, energy never dies, it merely transforms, you can observe this process in everything alive. If you'd have a time-lapse machine and look to any being, you'd observe a process of birth, peak of growth, and then a slope towards decay until death. At death, that being, that entity, say a banana, will become a component of a different entity, say the compost, the soil. Its components, say its magnesium and other elements, together with others in the compost, would be broken down and rearranged into new elements, which then will be assimilated by new plants, helping them grow and fulfill their cycle of birth, grow, decay, and death. So far, nothing new. Life feeds life by this natural process, which brings predictable results. New life. To be able to see this process, you must move octave. You must raise at a higher level of consciousness, or to occupy a higher plane from which to observe the full process unbound by space and time. As a human or as a banana from that level of being, you are caught in the process. You are part of it. So you won't be able to see the full process. Much like a baby can see the cellular process leading to its formation. But under the microscope, we can see parts of that process. Imagine now that there is a bigger microscope with a higher time-lapse machine that can follow in real time the full human process. Like watching a Netflix documentary showing you in 1 hour the full process from pre-birth to post-death. Whether that was a human, a plant, or an animal, they were not able to witness that process while being part of it. But you could. Why? Because of 2 things: time and consciousness. You're not bound by time. Time for you run at higher speed than the time of the life process you just observed. And 2, you did not identify with the process. You were observing. You were the observer and not the observed. So you're able to witness and understand the process unfolding before your eyes from a higher level of consciousness than that of the being you're observing. Now, I know this is a hard pill for you to swallow, but we are a Netflix documentary for other beings in this vast scale of existence. And I'm not using the word universe for many reasons. 1, because we don't know what we are talking about when we clam up everything under the same name. For the material scientist, universe means one thing. For the New Agers, it means another. For the Platonic mystic initiates, another still. For the religious people, depending on their religion, whether Abrahamic, Hindu, Buddhist, even Scientology, the universe means something completely different, with here and there some colliding themes. So levels of existence is the most appropriate way of looking at the process of life from micro to macro levels. Now, if you can observe a process from outside, you can understand it and find ways to influence it. This is what the scientist does in a lab, right? Looking at the process unfolding under the microscope to understand it, to then reproduce it, and then tweak it, play with it, either to find cures against pathogens endangering that process, or to develop pathogens and highly sophisticated means to destroy that process. So from finding cures to creating bioweapons. Just as we have good, well-intentioned scientists looking for cures and evil scientists working to develop weapons of mass destruction here on Earth in this plane of existence, so are in higher dimensions. Each is motivated by the level of perspective. For many people who love artificially created natural beauty, like a perfect lawn, for example, the dandelion and other similar plants are seen as weeds. For the rest of us, in touch with nature and its healing powers, we see the dandelion as a healer. Same life, seen from different perspectives. Those viewing the dandelion as a weed have invested in research to understand its growth in order to be able to kill it and prevent it from coming up again. Those of us who love the dandelion and see it as a healer invest in research to understand its process of healing when introduced to the process of another life form, say humans. At the first look, both sides are killing it. The difference, however, which will apply to what I'm going to say next about what's happening with the human life at the moment, so both are killing it, but the difference lays in the intention behind. The first want to kill it simply because the dandelion is a natural form of life indigenous to this planet that messes with the artificially controlled environment that is the lawn. So here we have a level of consciousness that tries to superimpose their preferences for how life should express based on their criteria of aesthetics and value systems. I mean, who has invented the idea of a lawn when millions are invested each year in poisoning the earth with chemicals that kill so many species, destroys the soil, makes us ill from the infiltration into our water systems? It takes so much time and effort and money to maintain it, just to have this green patch. If a dandelion will show up, these individuals who prefer artificial forms of life and beauty, which they can control, let's call them those who have terraformed the patch to match their preferences, will see the dandelion as an ugly intruder who messes with their perfect manicured creation. Now, it's very important that you take time to understand the implication of what I just described. You see, when it comes to trying to understand what is going on in the world, people are blinded by the fact that they are in the process. So you cannot witness the full process from the outside. When different people like me come and tell you part of the story of this process, well, I'm telling the whole process or most of it, from the level of consciousness and perspective, remember, perspective of the dandelion, you are dismissing these different views and pieces of information as conspiracy theories, because you make the mistake in assuming that everyone on Earth has the same value systems and perspective of what life on Earth should be. Why would anyone want to destroy humans? Wouldn't they destroy themselves too? Why would they want to poison us? Wouldn't they poison themselves too? And so on. The example of the lawn, the dandelion, and the millions, if not billions, invested in trying to kill it and prevent it from ever coming up again is the best description that I can give you to answer that question. The dandelion in this example represents natural life, which supports all other natural life and can be controlled. The lawn represents artificial life that supports no life at all, but can be controlled. For a farmer working to create and maintain something that feeds no one makes absolutely no sense. The question would be the same question you are asking when you disbelieve the so-called conspiracy theories. Why would anyone go to all that trouble to destroy a life form when life is so short and there are so many things to do and take care of, right? It's a matter of perspective. Those who work hard to kill the dandelion see untamed nature as a threat to their superiority over natural life itself. They perceive themselves as superior, evolved species, and all natural habitats with the natural forms of life as archaic and primitive. So while complex, it's also very simple to answer that question with a similar question. Why would people go to the trouble to create poisons to kill a healer? I let you ponder on that. Just like why would people go to trouble to kill entire environments just to create mega cities, to cram up people in small concrete blocks, suspended in the air, completely cut out from natural life, and in some cases from natural light too. Oh, look at this beautiful light. Why do we find normal to kill natural habitats to create artificial ones, like artificial green spaces and parks, and plant trees and plants just for the ornament, instead of planting fruits and vegetables that everyone can eat? Or why do we accept as normal to live crammed up on top of each other in concrete buildings instead of spreading and occupying the face of the earth and work, create, and live with nature and in harmony with natural laws of life? You see, good people make the mistake of assuming that everyone is as honest and as well-intentioned as they are, until we learn the hard way that that is not the case. In the same way that humans make the mistake in assuming that everyone looking human is human, and that humans have the same values, ideas, motivations, and agendas. We never did. And those who know to interpret the Bible know that we've been warned about this since times immemorial, not least by Jesus, who's trying to warn humanity of this invisible war against natural life, against natural order. Matthew 7:15, beware of false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. By their fruit you shall recognize them. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree is by good fruits, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. Go back to the lawn and the dandelion. Does the lawn bear any fruits? None at all. Look at the artificial habitat in which we have been constricted, to the transgenic mutation of our food source, to the transhumanism and advancement of artificial intelligence to replace the human natural creativity, to take over our meaning of life, over our contribution. Be aware of the false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. What Jesus meant was not the religious prophets. In today's world, a prophet is everyone that is sharing knowledge, superior knowledge, from that higher level dimension Netflix documentary where you saw in 1 hour the full history of a civilization. In today's world, the prophets are those who try to tell you what life is all about, what God, source, life are all about, what the science of existence is all about. And the false prophets in today's world are the scientists who are gaslighting you in believing the transhumanist agenda. The charismatic billionaires that on one hand say they are pro-life and on the other building microchips to implant in your brain to merge you with AI. Are these bringing any benefit to any of us at all? No. We're all depressed, or most of us, broke, family and childhoods are broken, our natural way of life destroyed. We've been slowly being taken over by a non-human entity who since the beginning of this human civilization has tried to derail the natural order of life. Now you can also understand the Masonic motto, order up chaos, or the way they see their mission to bring order out of chaos. To understand this, you need to go back to perspective. What's order for one is chaos for another. What's order for the lone lover is chaos for the dandelion. And what's order for the dandelion and natural life itself, it's chaos for the lover of the artificial habitat. What they mean by that, by bringing order out of chaos, is they first need to disrupt the natural order of life, to create the chaos, to exterminate the dandelion in order to create a perfectly manicured lawn. That's what they mean by that. No wonder they have apocalyptic imagery in every major event. From the Shiva dance, have you seen the Destroy and Create of Worlds dance at the opening of the Large Hadron Collider, to the Death Riding Pale Horse at the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. They're telling you what's coming, and you are still not listening. There are so many things to go into and to explain that I don't even know where to begin. The mistake well-intentioned people make is to assume that their way of reasoning is everybody's way of reasoning, that their lifespan is everyone's lifespan. I hear questions from that level of existence, caught in that process, make sense. But when you are looking from a higher dimension, they become self-explanatory. Questions like, if there are such highly advanced entities who want to get rid of humans with the ability to observe the process of life from outside space-time, surely they will have the means to destroy us in a blink of an eye. Why would they bother to employ such sophisticated means of destruction? Why would they bother planning for many generations this human downfall when they could simply kill us? And here we go back to the lawn and the dandelion. More precisely, to the many poisons invented to kill the dandelion, only for it to come back up despite the efforts to exterminate it. You see, natural life, by the natural divine order, has a way of always coming back. Since they are not the ones who has created that life and that natural order, and since they can't kill it, what's the next thing they can do? It's what they've done to the crops, transgenic mutation. You corrupt the process from within, you hijack the resilience of life and its desire to self-perpetuate, only that you'll have to convince it to do it in your desired direction. Otherwise put, instead of wasting more time trying to kill the dandelion only for it to appear where you least expect it, you dedicate your time and efforts in convincing the dandelion to come out next time as grass, and by confusing the dandelion about its nature, origin, purpose, and destination. You manage to harness the power to hijack a life's form, core identity, meaning, and purpose in the whole scheme of life, and you've managed to hijack the process of life itself. From then onwards, you don't need to use poisons to kill the dandelion when you can use the dandelion to express like grass. That's why it took so long, because these people, these entities, are playing the long game. Humans, just like crops, were the first stage of this transgenic mutation. Because we're not the last part of their plan, because we are not the first, the only, and the mightiest in existence. But we do hold the key to this invisible fight between the natural life and the artificial life, between self-source and the demiurge, between God and Satan, between eternal life and eternal death. This is what is going on at the moment. We have been forced to mutate and are in the process of being assimilated and mutated into a different kind of civilization. The top-down rulership, the oppression and suppression of the masses, the class division between the poor and the rich, the working class and the elites, the introduction of AI and the replacement of the labor force, the scarcity of jobs, the cost of living crisis, they seem unrelated. They have all contributed to the derailment of human life experiment as originally intended towards the end result that these entities desire. Now they don't need floods and mass extinction in order to achieve extinction of humanity as we know it. Look what happened to us in the last few decades. From helper cells performing our functions for the benefit of the whole body, we become aggressive cells competing for survival. The healer had to become office worker or a business person, an entrepreneur. The farmer was forced to become factory worker. The mother was forced to abandon her children in their infancy in the hands of strangers to become a productive member of society. Never mind if a poor salary would barely cover the cost of the childminders, and if her children would be handicapped for life by her absence in their childhood. Never mind if being productive member of society with her miserable job, she has also unintentionally become the cause of their mental illness and the damage they will inflict upon others from their abandoned, neglected state. As long as she worked, as long as she stopped performing her function of nurturer of future healthy generations, as long as she mutated into a different creature, sterilized of her nurturing instincts, fighting for emancipation from the shackles of motherhood. The catastrophic consequences on the society would be but a very profitable collateral damage. The mental and physical illness of her children would put a very heavy burden on society, and her and other mothers like her, and their estranged husbands would have to work harder to pay higher taxes to cover the cost of their mutation. Now, with all the billions invested in scientific research, you'd have to be very stupid to not realize that this is a recipe for disaster, unless it's part of the transgenic plan. So we either have very stupid scientists and economists to not identify that this derailment from her nurturing functions is the most expensive and the most damaging strategy for human progress, or that was exactly the plan of the terraforming entity taking over natural life. Because when you compare the social contribution from her job's output with the negative multi-generational consequences of her neglecting her main functions of nurturer, the maths doesn't add up. Her work output will never cover the cost on society caused by her mutation, by her being forced to adopt a different function than that of light bringer and nurturer of our society. We now have an epidemic of mental illness for which we don't have enough money and true healers to put an end to it. We have an outbreak of narcissism and personality disorders, which science itself tells us that they are caused by childhood abuse and neglect. We have an epidemic of trauma and depression caused by abuse by the narcissistic husbands, wives, mothers, and fathers. And instead of learning from our mistakes and make a U-turn to address the cause, we carry on ignoring investing in mental health awareness campaigns to destigmatize mental illness and give you the right to not be ashamed of being mentally ill, to give you the freedom to take your pills, proudly posting on social media on how responsible member of society you are because you finally acknowledge your mental illness and are doing the responsible thing to address it. Take your pills, follow the science, follow the authority. The same science and authority that use these petulant children to point fingers at you for the climate change, while ignoring the damage caused by itself and its toxic inventions, and the industrialists responsible for the mutation of mankind from a natural being living in harmony with its environment into a virus that's destroying its host. The same science that urges you to eat bugs and stop natural farming because the farts from cows are responsible for global warming, while at the same time supporting global corporate expansion, overproduction, and overconsume, and at least overmedication. The science calling for stringent measures that restrict the little freedom you have got left in the name of environmental protection is the same science responsible for the pollution of the environment. The pharmaceutical industry is one of the highest polluters, more than the automotive industry. From their factory plants around the globe, where they've poisoned rivers, soils, and led to the extinction of entire species and the mutation of others, to the pollution of our water and food source. Each time you take an antidepressant, the rest of us takes it too. Only that instead of coming from a bottle, it comes from your fish, from fruits, vegetables, and from your tap water. The contamination of psychiatric medication of our rivers and lakes has led to gender and behavioral modification in fish, in frogs, and in other species. Fish exposed to psychiatric medication exhibited aggressive mating behaviors. When we look at our society, we discover the same patterns. Yet, the environmental science is silent on that. It was science who told us that we are all part of the food chain in our ecosystem. And yet, environmental science, psychology and psychiatry, health sciences are to this day separate branches, as if the impact on one will not cause a ripple effect on the rest. Why? Unless it's part of the pathogen's plans to cause the host to mutate in order to accommodate its aims. Now let's look at our impaired mental health. 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 children are now suffering with a diagnosed mental illness. In the UK, an even darker reality is that that number corresponds to the number of adults victims of childhood sexual abuse. Yes, 1 in 4 adults are victims of childhood sexual abuse, and 1 in 5 children are exposed to domestic violence. So if you are a family of 4, one of you will suffer, not necessarily from what I mentioned earlier, but from a mental condition. And if you are a team of 8, you already know 2 of you are already concerned. The rest of you are either completely mutated perpetrators, what I call the asymptomatics, mentally ill, but instead of them suffering, they're causing others to suffer, or at such low level of emotional and spiritual development, they go hand in hand, that you don't even register the emotional pain around you. Now, whether this category is the offspring of the pathogen or successful mutant is a matter for debate. One thing is sure, these people are in the position of power authority and the one deciding what interventions you need for you to get back to work, to be a productive member of society. Hence why the mental health and social care industry fails everyone, because it's led by these emotional, unavailable mutants. If I can hold a job, respect authority, trust science, pay the taxes, and go to the grave never knowing whether I lived or not, why can't you? They're the lawn, you're the dandelion. And now we hit the final conundrum. Apart from us being mentally ill in one form or another, the second biggest human problem is loneliness. And it's not the social media the one responsible for this. That's the psychobubble that they are feeding you. No, it's the mutation. From the human health and well-being point of view, the fundamental human need that we all share is the need to belong and to matter to somebody. Those around you need to perform their functions of loving, just like you are supposed to do. But when the cells meant to cooperate are fighting amongst themselves, belonging becomes the source of illness itself. So you are now caught into a damn if you do, damn if you don't. You suffer when you are alone and you suffer when you're surrounded by people. And this is how the full cycle of the mutation becomes complete. If initially our survival depended on us coming together, now our survival depends on us staying apart. Now you can understand when people, especially people with complex mental health conditions, the first thing they are told to improve their mental health is to go out and socialize and meet other people. And the last thing they do is that. They're isolating, they're self-isolating, they don't want to meet people. Why? Well, because it's people who broke them. It's people who ruined their health and life. Through their trauma, they have their antennas for survival so attuned that they've become psychics. Those of us who have endured trauma, we have become psychics. Well, another debate is where we came with these qualities and were basically kick-started to remember, but that's for another video. But these people are so attuned to their environment because they had a life of enduring trauma and turmoil. So they're the first to identify the culprits, the mutants, So they stay the hell away from them. That's why people don't want to socialize. When you see in supported accommodation or in other settings, when they say, go, why don't you go and meet people? Why don't you go? Oh, somebody the other day said to me, I made a video, I took it down, when I was feeling this intensity before, because this is how it happens. Like I'm scanning the environment, I'm scanning the world, and I get the information, and it takes a lot of, like, it's ugly, it's not pretty when you have to deal with all that. So this person said, like, he was a nice friend, you know, he was well intentioned, like, well, do you have like-minded people to support you, to be around? And if I wouldn't have been so deflated, I would have burst out laughing. Mentally, I laughed. I was like, God, man, how can I tell you? It's like, it's a bloody luck to find minded people, let alone like-minded people. So I was like, forget it. But that's why people with complex trauma and with complex adverse life events are isolating. And they're like asking them to go to meet people. Yes, for those of you who are already mutated, or who have not even woken up yet from your cocoon, it makes sense, because you don't feel, you are not aware, you are not self-aware, and you are not aware in a bigger picture for you to see the process, to see what's going on. These people are more than awake. They are uber awake. They are not mutants. They are seeing the mutants, and they stay the hell away. They are the dandelion who keep ruining the perfect lawn. Those of us with history of trauma and abuse and neglect want nothing more than have loving, caring relationships. But we're also the first to recognize the signs of abuse in others, because we have this sixth sense developed. It's not that we project our experience onto the new ones. We just identify the pathogen. Those of us who suffer today, those who cannot fit in this upside-down world, who cannot derive pleasure from the superficial material trinkets, are the few remaining dandelions who refuse to be coerced, convinced, or tricked to behave like the grass. So that's that, my friends. I promised I would shock you. It is controversial, I know. And it also requires thinking. And I know that you might not have time, and I know that many of you have forgotten how to think. That's another reality. I'm trying to make, well, I'm not trying. I'm making videos when I feel like a strong impulse about something. The rest, there is so much knowledge that I could share with you, but on one side I don't have the time, on the other there are so many other reasons. I told you in another video, it's in Romanian, but maybe I'll make one in English. Imparted higher knowledge to people who have not earned it. It's not how it works. Have you ever seen a grandmaster going on YouTube and blubbering out all kind of, spewing his knowledge out? No. It's just like spewing advice, generalities out there just to keep yourself. No, yeah, it might serve to get million views and whatever and make yourself, but that's for fame and to make money on YouTube. It's not about staying true to a true message and to a true level of knowledge and maintaining integrity, because that requires a lot of work. So when I'm making videos, when I'm making something, especially like the one of today, it's because that is what is, well, I'm asked to make it. I'm asked to share that information, even if that information comes to ruffle my feathers, as it may. Well, many things that I've done, have kind of managed to not to deplatform me, but to make me, bottom of the ranking pages, because I say and I write all the wrong things for those entities. I was in a way satisfied to hear Jordan Peterson crying out loud the other day that his YouTube video with I can't remember what his name is. He's the guy who is responsible for the uprising in UK, for the British citizens to come together to claim their rights. Tommy Robbins or something like that. Apparently, even if you say that his name, you're going to be taken down off YouTube. But Jordan Peterson was, apparently he invested quite a lot in actually analyzing the algorithms, and he saw that video was bottom of the scale of Google and YouTube, and only had only shown to very few people, and he was furious. So I thought, wow, if that happens to Jordan Peterson, who has amassed such a following, not a fan, but that's another subject. Yeah, no surprise that somebody who just comes here and there, it's easy to be almost non-existent, but when I'm making these videos, it's because they matter, they count. That information, this information of today, is been cooking and pressure cooking me in all these last, years, months, especially last days, because it's so much to digest, to number one, to see, and then to digest, and then how to then present it, how to present it in a way that you can put the global picture in manageable bits of information and metaphorical form that can be understood by the general public. So let me know what you think. Let me know your experience. But you must be completely anesthetized or completely mutated if you can't see this difference, if you can't see how this trajectory of transforming the natural life and the natural way of being of humans has been eroded, slowly but surely eroded, and into this mutation, to the point that you no longer realize who you are. You no longer complain about, because you're like, it's been a gradual process. And if you look at when I'm just looking at the 2008 crash, and then the crisis and the surge in spirituality and spiritual searches, and then what was the next crash, and then the pandemic, and then that's the the best conditioning. You give something big, and then you let the pressure off a little for a while, and then you hit them again, and then you let a little less, and then until Well, that's what they do with animals in a zoo. Then whether it's with a or in a farm, you electrocute them so many times until they no longer go close to that fence, and then you can open, or like the little elephants, baby elephant, you open the gates, they never come close to it because, well, they have already memorized, they have an imprint of what happened to them, and then they don't want to have it. And it's multi-generational, it's transmitted genetically to, like that trauma, that learned behavior is transmitted. So can you now see, can you take yourself from the process, and can you for a little while position yourself on the observer from above and imagine yourself looking at, just like these entities are looking at us, trying to understand the whole picture, because this is what is going on. Let me know in the comments if you've observed that. Let me know if you observe that people no longer are people. If you observe that the lights are on but there's no one home. It's incredible. It's so rare now to find the real humans. Let me know if you see this mutation in people, in your family, at work. And I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your experiences. Until next time, take care. And please don't become a mutant if you are still among us. If you are the dandelion, the few dandelions left, please, 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 stay dandelion. Stay a healer. Stay natural. Don't mutate. Take care.